watched. I think this is the one that I had watched earlier, and I wanted to kind of go through it with you as well. This is Asmongold responding to, reacting to some of the stuff going on in LA with the riots and everything.
At this. This is crazy. This is happening right now. Look at this. It's supposed to be a first world country. You got out there people acting like fucking apes. It's embarrassing. This is crazy. What is going on? What is this? What is this shit?
So whenever I see a lot of this, like the throwing the bricks at the police and all this type of stuff, what have you, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Because the thing that gets me, and I don't know how other people feel, but the thing that enrages me the most is that I know that if I were to behave in this manner, I'm getting arrested, I'm getting put in jail, right? The consequences. And I think this is where we're really having significant deterioration in this country, is this two-tiered system of justice where these petulant children get to behave this way, get away with it. Whereas, you going about your day, you happen to, I don't know, get a speeding ticket, park your car in the wrong place, whatever. You have to deal with those consequences. But whenever you get shit like this, it doesn't seem like anything happens. And I've heard, maybe we'll get around to it, I keep hearing all this crap about, the LAPD, they're the best at dealing with riots. They have the most experience, blah, blah, blah. And it makes me think, okay, so wait a minute. Your argument is that because you allow riots to happen so often, somehow you're good at controlling riots. See the flawed logic in that, right? And that's why they don't want the National Guard there. They don't want Trump bringing in more folks. And I've seen Newsom and Mayor Bass there talking about how more troops and things like that, they're just going to inflame tensions and stuff. And again, failed logic here, right? So you're telling me that if the less law enforcement you would have in these areas, somehow things would get better, right? Like that's your argument. Then why do you have police there to begin with? Why don't you pull the police out somehow? It's just going to get better, right? I mean, what nonsensical argument?
Well, I mean, honestly, we are the fall of the Roman Empire right now. And we don't have to look anywhere except right here in our own backyard to see it. And, this guy standing there on the side of the road throwing rocks at or whatnot, it could have been a Molotov cocktail. Right now it was a rock or a brick or whatever. What would have been the response or the reaction of the press and everybody if a cop had shot this guy?
Right. What would it have been if that's a civilian vehicle? If I'm driving through there and you throw a rock at my car and I hit you for any reason, maybe I'm in fear and I don't want to be killed. Maybe the brick goes through the windshield, right, and harms me or something like that. Like, yeah, that's my point. Is both the kind of the social response to it and the legal response. Why the hell are these cars not just stopping immediately and arresting this fool? And honestly, I would see that as justified to kill this fool. I mean, like, this is ridiculous. If you're using a deadly weapon, I mean, what is your intention here? If you throw a rock at somebody, what would your intention be?
Well, if somebody threw a rock at me, I would assume that they're attempting to murder me.
Correct. I mean, like, yeah. It's so infuriating to see this play out. Whenever, if you were to put yourself in those shoes, you would have a pretty good idea as to what would happen to you. That being, justice is going to be swift and harsh. But for whatever reason, not here. And again, I think it's also, what do you the response what would happen? Again, I think of it from a civilian perspective. The police here have all the authority to be able to handle this in any situation they see fit, and they would have immunity and a whole bunch of other protections if things were a little awry, whatever. But imagine, again, civilians, right? This is your neighborhood, this is your area, that's your car, what have you, and people are behaving this way, and you would be flayed if you were to take action against this.
They're just random cars. What is this? Like, that's just that's a regular ass car. Like, as far as I know, like, this is a regular ass car. He just sitting here doing this. And by the way, even if it's not, he didn't know that. Look at this. Undercover? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Yeah, arrest him? Yeah, he's not discriminating. Well, you need to put this dude in jail. Like, this is the thing. Why is this guy not being arrested? He's openly attempting to kill federal agents in LA. And you don't even know about this shit. Then they're actively looking for this guy throwing rocks. Really? Well, which one? There's 50 fucking guys. I strongly suggest you turn yourself in. It's only a matter of time. Well, where the fuck is the police?
Only a matter of time on us. The guy's wearing a freaking helmet. Like, I'm so tired of that talk too. Oh, we'll get him eventually. Bullshit. Also, you know, the other thing that really irritates me about this, and there's been more talk about it, is the surveillance state, right? So we saw what happened after 9/11 with the Patriot Act. Now there's talks. People are, you know, all these right-wing people are calling for the use of technology like Palantir, which is massive surveillance systems and stuff. It's been likened to Minority Report, you know, precog type stuff. Bullshit. And this is the pretext. And, you know, it makes you question whether there's a concerted effort from both the left and the right, because this is what they want to implement, is more of the BS surveillance state. Oh, you know, God forbid you got to give up some of your your freedom so that, you know, we can make it a more secure place. Bullshit. I'd be happy to handle stuff like this. You know, fortunately, I'm not in some crap state like California, but if that were to be in my state, you know, allow the citizenry to deal with it themselves. You know, if that's the route you want to go, because I have absolutely zero confidence in law enforcement. I mean, you see it right there. How many law enforcement vehicles drove by without doing anything?
Well, I've for very, very many decades have believed that they're just telling us two different versions of the same lie so that they can, you know, get their ultimate agenda enforced. And if absolute control over the population is what they want, then all right, you play good cop, I'll play bad cop, or you play Democrat, I'll play Republican. And, you know, together we'll hoodwink the citizenry and bring them under our control. And they're not doing it. I mean, they're doing it on every front, not only this type of stuff where they manufacture these riots and these other protests and whatnot, and that allows the useful idiots to go out and play their role. And, you know, oh, now everyone's scared, so now we have to enact this and that. And at the same time, though, look at what they're doing to the farmer, right? Suddenly, you're not allowed to have your own little patch of garden, or you're not allowed to grow your chickens, or you're not allowed to do this or that, or you can't sell raw milk. They're hitting it on every front so that they can control people. And what concerns me the most is that way back when religions and kings and whatnot were taking over, it was easier to control the masses than to kill them. Right? You had religion, you had this, that, and the other, and you could send them out and they work on the farms, and so you controlled the masses, and the elites enjoyed that produce. Whereas now it's very hard to control the masses. Everyone has a camera. Everyone has a phone. If people can use it to link up and to share ideas and to do this and that. So at this point, it's easier to kill the masses than it is to control them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I believe, is why we're seeing so much of this, so that they can start doing things like China do. You know, we watched you. We decided that you're against the state, so you're going to disappear. Or, you know, you make it so bad in an area. First, we send in the National Guard. We let you guys chase the National Guard out. Oh, well, the only thing we can do now is bomb that area.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. And you just continue to see escalation in so many different ways. I mean, you know, whether it's, again, allowing you recall in I don't know, sometime between 2020 and 2022, that whole Chaz Chop crap over in Seattle, Washington, where, you know, a whole bunch of quote unquote peaceful protesters, you know, they took over city blocks in Seattle, Washington for several weeks, if not more than a month. I don't recall. People were ended up getting shot and everything. And you've got the same folks who voted that type of stuff in, and we're all for it, trying to sue the state or sue the county, whatever it was, because, you know, they weren't able to get access to care and stuff because ambulances weren't able to get in, all this other type of nonsense. It's crazy. And you hear a lot of folks calling, you know, saying, just, you know, just pull out, let places like California, Los Angeles, what have you, just kind of burn. Like they wanted this is what they get. And as much as I am 100% for that from just a guttural response, no, right? No, because California has, sure, they have state rights, but federal law gets to supersede that. And federal law is the Constitution. And the Constitution is there to ensure that the government protects the rights of the citizenry, right? So if the state tries to oppress your rights as a citizen, the federal government's job is to step in and ensure that they can't do that. And whenever you get BS like this, where people are putting lives in danger, destroying personal property, things like that, that's time for the government to step in. And you know what kills me is just the schizophrenic attitude whenever it comes to this type of stuff. So you saw the LA fires and stuff like that. You see these protests and everything like that. And what else do you see? Well, you see insurance companies pulling out of the state. They're no longer able to insure. They want to raise rates and stuff. And then people get up in arms. Oh, it's so expensive to live here. We can't. Gee, I wonder why. Do you know how much destruction is being caused here? Are you stupid? Insurance companies aren't charities. They're businesses. Right? Why the hell would I insure these places where you know damn well that you're going to be paying for preventable issues? Right? Like, it's just utterly insane. But instead of being logical about that and understanding what's going on, then they complain, and you get people, you know, complaining about insurance and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you get one of those Luigi Mangione type cases where you get a CEO of a healthcare company assassinated in broad daylight. Oh, because, you know, healthcare is expensive or what have you. It's like, do you not see the steps to get to that point? It's, God, these people are dumb, just so dumb in so many ways. Let's keep going here.
So you got this. Look. They actually went and turned this shit into it. Just shoot them? I'm going to be honest. You sitting there throwing bricks at people and they shoot you, I say that's a rip bozo. You should not be throwing bricks at cars. Throwing bricks at cars? Get the fuck out of here.
Speaking of bricks at cars, I mean, I notice actually this happens more often than people think. You know, kids being stupid and not really thinking of the ramifications. But I forget, there was a pretty big case recently where a kid had dropped a rock from an overpass and ended up killing like a mother of 5 or something like that. And, you know, he's going away for quite some time. I don't know how old he was, you know, teenager, mid-teens or something like that. But you know, again, I understand, you know, sometimes you don't think things through. You have impulses and things like that, and you don't necessarily think your actions are not intended to cause harm necessarily, but that's not how law works, right? Just because you have good intentions, if they result in death, dismemberment, what have you, you're going to deal with those consequences. That's welcome to the real world. And I think this is whether it's parents or otherwise, that's something that needs to be instilled and started at an early age. Is like, just because you have an impulse to do something or think it might be a good idea, maybe think more than one step ahead.
Yeah, it's a fuck around and find out situation. A self-defense, yeah. It's attempted murder, yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? I was thinking about this when I was watching some of this, is that, if I were a resident here or something like that, and it's a huge uphill battle, but I would be suing the hell out of the local law enforcement, the city council, the county, the state, for not protecting my property and my rights. Like, I wonder if, when, or how many people might do this, even trying to get a class action going on that type of thing. Like,
well, first
this
off,
is what
what
your
you're going to
taxpayer
find,
money is supposed to go to.
what you're going to find, because they've already done this in multiple states over multiple decades, is that the police have no legal impetus to serve and protect. That was a marketing scheme. Their only job is to enforce the law that is provided to them by the government. They have no mandate to protect you as a citizen. So this is where the problem comes in. I remember during the one of the riots, the big thing was that the Korean community came together.
Rooftop
And
Koreans, yeah.
you're right. They got up there with their guns and whatnot, and they protected. So then the law enforcement comes in and says, "Oh, well, we're going to arrest you guys because you were protecting your property and doing our job." On the other hand, you have shown multiple times in courts that that's not your job. So if they're going to sue them in a class action suit, it would have to be for impeding their ability to protect themselves, not for the cops' failure to protect them.
Yeah, but see, with that argument, I mean, that would go into, okay, if the cops are their mandate, their legal obligation is to enforce law, well, they're clearly not enforcing law. Right? And if you go down that route, what law are they supposed to be enforcing? Well, the Constitution would be a good start, right? Well, what's the Constitution? Well, the protection of civil liberties, right? Your freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, property rights, things like that. So if you are failing in that duty, I don't understand what the legal response would be to how they're not failing in that duty and how they wouldn't
Well,
be responsible.
okay, but let's look at it this way. If you're going to go apple picking, which apples are you going to pick? The ones way at the top of the tree that you got to climb up? Or the ones
Yeah, for
hanging
sure.
low?
That's where
Right?
they could, absolutely have the argument of, well, we were doing it. It's just we had to prioritize, and this isn't where we were at. So blah, blah, blah.
Right. So all these Koreans on the roof protecting their property, they're breaking this law, and we're going to enforce that. Why? Because they're not wearing masks. They're at their place of livelihood or where they live. Everything's there and easy. Whereas the people coming in, firebombing them, breaking in, stealing their shit, well, they're all wearing masks and they live in a different neighborhood. So
Yeah,
that's
it's hard to
harder
do
to
that.
enforce.
Yeah, it's easy to enforce, Well, and this, I think this exact. So I think you touched on the exact nerve as to what is going to foment another civil war in this country. And I'm not even being hyperbolic. It is because you get law-abiding citizens feeling as though they're not protected. They're not allowed to protect themselves. And in fact, if they do protect themselves, their property, what have you, they are then punished. And why are they punished? It's because it's easier, because they're law-abiding citizens, right? Is it easier to arrest the criminal that's evading police or whatnot? Or is it easier to arrest the guy that stayed at the scene of the crime and, was there and trying to do their civil duty or whatever? Clearly, as with all of nature, you take the path of least resistance. And that's true for police and arrests and things like that. And I think it's going to get to that point where, again, you're seeing this. Criminals getting away with crime law-abiding citizens not being able to protect themselves, their property, and everything else, and not just that, but then being punished for it, you're then going to get that side, the law-abiding citizen side, getting into the vigilante side of things, right? That's where I see a lot of this going, because I mean, again, it's kind of crazy. I have to take some time away sometimes from this stuff because it's just so bizarre to see this. I mean, again, it's not in my area. I'm not dealing with this, but it's hard to imagine if this type of nonsense was happening in my community, in my neighborhood, and nobody's doing anything. Like, I don't know.
Like, I don't know how we let this shit happen. Like, this is not a big deal at all. Just whatever.
I'm Giovanna Lotta. You're taking a live look at one of the protests.
This is from yesterday. I want to go to the ones from today, because there's more of them. Obviously, like there's a whole new one. Let me see if I find a new one.
Kid with her? A live look at one of the protests.
This is from yesterday. I want to go to the ones from today. Because there's more of them. Obviously, like there's a whole new one. Let me see if I find a new one. And this is 2 hours ago. Here's another one. Let's get it. You ain't never gonna see a shit happen in Texas. Probably happened in Austin. They probably have this shit happen in Austin.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's not going to happen in their area, and look how their response was to COVID and everything else.
I mean, aren't these emergency vehicles? At least some of them? This is nuts. We seen this? We seen part of this. No, this is the same thing as we looked at before, but it's a different one.
Do you remember? I wish I would have had the money. I mean, I still don't have the money, but do you remember when that ACP vehicle was for sale? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of them for sale, but I remember several years ago we were looking at one, which would have been awesome to get your own little personal armored personnel carrier.
Yeah. Do you think this could resort in civil war or civil unrest? No, not at all. I think this is a problem. They could solve this problem in 24 hours. Like this is a 24-hour solution. But they just don't want to do it. Easily, yeah, easily. And they have time. They have time left over.
So that's a question. If you were in charge of this situation here, and you were told you have to quash this now, what would your response be?
Very similar to Trump's, perhaps a little more aggressive. I would not just send in the National Guard. I would send in the National Guard with orders to suppress. And that scares me because I really don't like the idea of my government doing that with its citizens. But our citizens are teaming up with illegal aliens and other instigators to bring this stuff about. And, you know, I guess that at some point you got to say, well, you know what, if you're going to play these stupid games, you know, if you're going to try to get your policy, your agenda to the front by pushing, then we're going to push back. And I can push a hell of a lot harder.
I think something that they should do, like if they really wanted to, you know, solve this situation, is kind of a few-fold thing. Because I think the big thing is I would want to do everything within legal authority, right? Now, granted, whenever I think legal authority, I go back to more so our founding documents as opposed to the shit show of a constitution and law that we have now, where it's just all over the place. Because right now, I mean, there's all types of stuff you could get away with law enforcement wise that I think is trampling on our rights. However, that being said, I think if you, for example, the National Guard doesn't have, military doesn't have arrest authorities, right? And I'm not sure if there's any type of thing domestically where they would ever have arrest authorities. I don't know. Outside of, I'm sure you could probably deputize them in some way, but let's say that you can't. Is you set up groups, right? So one law enforcement officer with arrest authorities, and you get 3 or 4 National Guardmen, military personnel with them, right, for both protection, subduing, things like that. But their arrest authority is there with the police officer, so you can handle it in a legal fashion. That being said, I would also give orders that yes, if any type of deadly weapon is being used against you and whatnot, you are more than authorized to shoot to kill. Be done with that. For those protesters around there, I mean, go do your little dropping of pamphlets and flyers and stuff, letting folks know that, hey, here's your curfew. If you're out past this time, not only will you be arrested, this is an unlawful assembly. Because that's the thing is, right, even with the First Amendment right to assemble and all of that, if it's unlawful, it's no longer a right. Also, you're not allowed to, you're allowed to protest, you're allowed to be in the streets and stuff, but that's also against the law. So there are still ramifications to that. If you want to stand on the street corner yelling obscenities and stuff, hey, that's perfectly legal, right? But as soon as you then cross that threshold into impeding traffic, obstructing justice, all those types of, that's not lawful anymore. So again, arrest those folks, those that are being violent, arrest and or take capital action against them, and see how quickly it goes down, which it would. But the question, as put forth here, even in the video, right, is they don't want to. They don't want to. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about.
I would suggest that they also start involving the citizenry, right? Right now, the only citizenry that you're seeing out there are the protesters who are intermixed with illegal aliens and other instigators. Well, what about the rest of us? Yeah. If you're going to send in the National Guard, and I like your idea, have one arresting cop, have several National Guard members, but now get members of the community, the people who don't want these protests, the people who do want their businesses and their homes protected, the people who do have families that want them to be able to go to the park without being firebombed or raped or, all the other stuff that's going on. And, that's a militia. I know that Israel uses that quite a lot and quite effectively as well. That's why they have grandparents at the schools armed to the teeth. Why? Because, if somebody comes in to terrorize and shoot up their school, grandma and grandpa are going to shoot them and end that shit quick. Why are we doing that here?
Right. It's realities of life. And the fact is, if you don't like those ideas, if you don't like that thought process, well, don't allow this to happen to begin with. Right. Like that's what you get. And on top of that, the thing that I think irritates me the most, it's thinking further than just this first level thinking of, oh, property damage, people getting hurt. Dude, I don't want to be paying with my tax dollars and my citizens' tax dollars, my neighbors, my friends, my entire nation. I don't want our money going to rebuilding this nonsense that's just going to happen again and again and again. At what point does the federal government use its authority to, for example, sanction a state? Has that ever happened? Have we ever sanctioned a state or imposed tariffs on a state? Or, the economic type of things that we do to countries to get them in line?
Yes.
Why are we not doing this within our own country, right? I know that we withhold, federal tax dollars and stuff to things like a lot of people don't know why a lot of speed limits are the way that they are. Well, it's because if you want federal tax dollars for this, it has to be that way. If you want it, you got to have seatbelt laws, you got to have helmet laws, you got to have DUI laws. That's why it's all across the country. It's 0.08. Like there's a lot of things in which we do where if you want federal tax dollars, you have to abide by these federal laws. You don't have to do it, but you're not going to get the money otherwise. And so that's why many states do it. But at what point do we come in? We're going to seize California's state income. right? State tax income, and use that towards this crap. We're not going to let them use it for whatever nonsense they want until this stuff's put in order, because we don't want other states' taxpayers paying for this crap.
That's a good idea. I don't think we've ever gone that far. The example that I was going to use was the one that you did, was when Ronald Reagan said, well, if you won't put the speed limit at 55, you can keep it whatever you want. You just can't have the federal tax dollars for your highways and whatnot.
Right. And I am not.
However, if you go into bankruptcy as a private business, because you are not handling your business affairs well, and you go into bankruptcy, the judge can appoint somebody to oversee your business. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about here. California is such a shit show. They can't seem to get anything right. They're breaking down further and further, and it's costing us resources at the federal level, because now, we're paying for this, we're paying for that. We're paying for stuff with money outside of California for California problems. So at this point, yeah, maybe there should be a branch of the federal government that goes in and says, okay, you guys are out, we're taking over during the interim to get this fixed up and get a functioning California government.
Right.
The problem with that is it sounds good at the beginning, and I'm sure I would be rooting right along, but let's take it to its logical extreme.
Conclusion, right? Yeah.
Right. Then what happens? Well, then anytime the states disagree with the federal government, they say, "Oh, well, you're disagreeing. We're going to have to take you over," and
right.
Now you've lost.
Well, and that's exactly, as we were talking about, that's what irritates me, is because when you get into these situations, that's exactly what gets proposed, what gets implemented, and then we're stuck with it. And I don't want to get to that, because let's be very clear. I disagree that the federal government should be able to tell a state that they need to raise their speed limit, and otherwise you don't get money. No, I don't think that should be a thing, right? First, I don't think the government, this is why I'm so for limited government, because I don't think they should have the ability to do that. That being said, when you think about this, and I'm sure I know for a fact it could be done. And again, I disagree with it. I hate the argument of national security. National security this, so we're going to get to trample your rights. National security that, we get to trample your rights. But if you think about it, you could make the argument that California, being they're like a $4 trillion economy, a year economy or something like that. They're the largest in the country. They're fourth or fifth largest in the world, just California. At what point is it a national security threat to allow your greatest economic powerhouse to fail, right? I mean, you can make the argument that we're going to step in and take over this area and implement whatever policies that we see fit due to national security interest. And you think about all the businesses, Silicon Valley's in California, I believe, along with, a whole bunch of other industries and things like that. Well, what happens whenever stuff like this is allowed? And you have foreign nationals, along with what I would say treasonous citizens and things like that have access to these sensitive areas, sensitive technology, intellectual property, stuff like that. At what point is it a true national security threat? I wouldn't be surprised for somebody making that argument and using it in some way to implement policy.
I can't say you're wrong.
So GTA 6 here, yeah. People don't realize an insane minority of people doing this. Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is that you have this one, in my opinion, I think this is pretty much a single digit minority of people that are doing this. And how do you let these people run wild? Yeah, this is nuts, man. Majority at this point? No, it's not. This is where's this music? Oh, it's this here. Let me turn this off. Sorry, I thought there was something else going on. Yeah. See, they go and they say this shit, right? They say shit like this. Let us be clear. Anyone who assaults or impedes a federal...
So what's funny about what that commenter said, and even what Asmon said here, right, is it probably is it is a small minority of people doing this, right? Here's where the problem is. First of all, how many people does it take to I don't know, incite a riot? How many people does it take to kill somebody? How many people does it take to jack an airplane and cause a war in the Middle East, right? Not that many. What was it, 12 for 9/11? It only takes one person to go on a killing spree, right? Now, think about, okay, let's say it is a minority. Let's say it's 0.01% of the population. California has roughly 40 million people. That would be 4,000 people. 4,000. Imagine what 4,000 people, the amount of destruction that could be caused with a quote unquote minority of people. Yeah, it's only 1/10 of 1%. Yeah, when you multiply that out in the millions, that's thousands of people, and it only takes one. So, too bad. You're gonna have to do something. You have to deal with that minority of people. And honestly, the accessory aspect of it, whenever you have all these useful idiots who maybe they're not violent, maybe they're not out there hoping to see the violence and stuff, but if you're running cover for them, we've seen that with hell, even elected officials impeding law enforcement from engaging in their duties. You're accessory.
Law enforcement officer or agent in the performance of their duties will be arrested and swiftly prosecuted to the full extent of the law. No,
they won't. They won't. Did we not just see a guy throwing rocks at a car and nothing happened to him? Or we're not seeing all this? They will not. This is the problem, is they talk tough and nothing happens, which instills a sense of freedom and ability to get away with anything you want, and that's why they do it. Well, it's not why they do it. It is they do it for whatever reasons that they have, but it does not impede them from doing it. I should put it that way. It's not a deterrent because they know there are no consequences.
Are they? Where are the prosecutions then? Where are they? When? Like tomorrow? Like next year? Like, this is insane. This is third world country bullshit. Yeah, exactly. Crazed leftist tries to block. Look at this. Look at this. We can't watch that. I don't want to watch the guy get run over. But like, I mean, honestly, this is insane. Like, you're trying to get in front of a car like this. And I got to tell you, I don't have any fucking sympathy. You are trying to get in front of and stop a car like this. This is insane. A U.S. Marshal bus. You have to get these people and put them in fucking jail. He survived. You can't win them all. What's this?
Where all of this is playing out right now, where our ground camera is.
Look at this.
They're going to have to get through this.
Oh, here we go.
Two of those SUVs are now essentially going around this.
This is nuts, man.
Protesters. This really could turn.
This is a U.S. Marshal Service bus. I'm assuming that they use it to transport prisoners. You've got people trying to block it. 4 or 5 people there in front of it, like actually physically touching it, along with all the other people in the road. Come out of the bus, arrest these people, and sit them in the seats. Like, what is going on here? This is something else.
Extremely.
This is crazy.
Right, I'm seeing one of the doors open.
Oh, they're shooting out the window
on one of those vehicles.
What is this?
It's hard to tell if that's.
Look at he's out. He's playing around.
But we're right now seeing some agents with the federal government come out.
And who cares? You know what they're shooting. So they either have paintball guns that they're using to disperse crowds. They've got flashbangs and tear gas and stuff also as crowd dispersal mechanisms. Who cares? Like, I mean, it really doesn't do much. I mean, it's kind of clearing a path here or whatever, but it doesn't stop anything. It's just nonsense.
And they're trying to make way for this bus right now.
Yeah, kidnappers, not protesters. Yeah, bro, this is not like, and this is the problem, is like, it's really a vocabulary problem. This is not a protest. Like whenever you're destroying property and throwing bricks at people and like, fucking getting in the street and making sure people can't drive, this isn't a protest anymore. Like this was a protest. Now it's not. And so that you got even more of this.
Vantage point that we would not have without having helicopters there in the sky. Look at this, Austin.
Mexican flags?
Mexican flags. The line of law enforcement agents there.
Yep.
During this face-off.
Can you imagine how fucking annoying this is if you're trying to drive home? Holy shit.
Appears to be a face-off.
Yeah, and it's tough to tell from a distance, but it looked to be the color of the sheriff's deputies that are creating that wall there. Looks like they're trying to create a.
How long do you think a police person crashes out and a protester gets shot?
I know I've said it many times during this discussion, but my goodness, every time I'm watching this stuff, it irritates me so much that an individual citizen has no right or authority to do anything about this. Right? I'm continuing to put myself in this situation where if you had to make a tough call, right, you are going to be, your life would be destroyed if you were put in a situation where, somebody's putting your life in danger and you respond in kind. Or again, you think about like at what point, so I can't get to work, I can't get home. What happens? Somebody's trying to get to the hospital and they can't do it, or they need to get over to, there's an emergency at their family member's house, and they need to get there to get them medicine or something like that, life-saving medicine or something. There's a ton of scenarios in which you could hypothetically get into. When are you justified? Morally and ethically, I think you'd always be justified, but legally speaking, justified in taking action into your own hands? And the answer is never. And that's the problem. Like that is a huge problem. And don't get me wrong. I know that a lot of people would abuse that or misinterpret that, and you'd have those problems. But to me, I would rather deal with those problems than these problems. At least I think that I would. I maybe need to think about it a bit more. But in all reality, if people were given more authority to handle their affairs in ways they see fit, how much of this might not be going on? What would the collateral damage of it be in comparison to what you have now? I don't know.
Well, that's what's scary, right? Is like, in my opinion, this is what I support, right? Obviously I don't want them to run people over, right? But I support self-defense. I think that if you assault a police officer with what could be a deadly weapon, you should expect a proportionate response in force.
All right, pause that. So why just a police officer? If you assault me with a rock,
right?
Why can't I defend myself?
Exactly. That's my argument. That's why this is why I'm not a big supporter of, back to blue, all that type of nonsense as a general rule. And I'd imagine that, I don't know, maybe he'll continue on, but I imagine he means self-defense for everybody. But in this case, we're seeing police. But yeah, no, I'm in entire agreement. And this is what is so irritating to the masses is that, why is it a cop's allowed to speed or obstruct traffic, things like that? In certain situations, sure, it makes sense, right? But everybody has experienced this where you're driving, particularly at night, cops got somebody pulled over and their freaking lights are so bright that they're blinding you, causing, a hazard when driving, right? Or why is it that police are allowed to have their windows completely blacked out and tinted, but, that we have tent laws, right? To where your window tint can only be a certain shade. It's not allowed to be, past certain. Why? Right? Same with this. Why is it that, cops are allowed to defend themselves and everything like that without any legal ramifications if it's, legally justified, but the citizens, there's more scrutiny to it. Why? It's absolutely insane. And it puts people in terrible situations where their life might be endangered or taken because they have to think through that, right? you're put in a dangerous situation. You have to decide whether or not, am I justified in doing this? Will I go to jail if I do this? And by the time you get through that thought process, you might be dead, right? It's
in West Virginia, if I'm surrounded by 4 guys, I have the right to use deadly force. So now let's put me somewhere in West Virginia or Los Angeles or any place you want, and I'm surrounded not by 4 guys, but maybe 40 or 140, and they're blocking the road. They're first off, it's false imprisonment, right? They're keeping me there against my will. Second, if they're acting violent, I have to assume that their actions speak toward their intentions. So, if you're being violent toward me and there's 40 of you or 140 of you, how am I at fault if I say, well, my life is precious to me, my children's lives are precious to me, I'm just going to hit the gas and get through you guys? But no, then suddenly I'm in trouble because I ran into a group of people. But wait a minute, these people were holding me against my will. These people were acting violently toward me. These people had me in fear for my life and that of my family. I think that riding right through them is completely fine in my mind.
It is. I think that is both morally and ethically justifiable. And the problem is whenever it comes to, again, our law enforcement, 2 things on that. One, path of least resistance. Oh, it's easier to arrest you as the one guy than the 40 or 140 people that, are actually causing the problem here. Secondly, we have the bullshit reasonable person doctrine, right? Well, what a reasonable person in your situation. First of all, who gets to decide what a reasonable person is? First of all. Secondly, how about, this is where whenever I see this type of stuff in court cases or whatnot, I would let's put you in this situation right here, right now, and threaten your life and see what's allowed, what the response is allowed to be, right? That's my viewpoint on it. Is first of all, you don't get to decide what's reasonable. Generally speaking, I think as a society, for the most part, there might be some way. This is where it gets muddy, right? Because there aren't clear-cut things necessarily. But at what point, again, I don't think people that aren't in the situation should be, I don't even know. I don't know. At the end of the day, I would know, and at least in this case, I'd rather be alive and deal with the consequences afterward than not be alive. I think that's at least a starting point. Fight your way through the courts if you have to. But again, I think it's disgusting that we'd have to get to that point in this society to where you need to fight your way through that, right? There was, what was it, Daniel Penny, I think his name was, the guy in New York on the subway, who there was a guy threatening to harm people and everything like that. He and some other passengers subdued the guy, and he had to go through the court system, potentially losing his life and livelihood by being put into prison. Now he ended up getting off, which was incredible, but the very fact to have to go through that. So somebody is verbally threatening you, clearly is unstable, and you're supposed to what? Just hope that nothing happens? That's what a crazy world we're in. What do you think? Do you think it would be, I was having this conversation a little bit, but what are your thoughts on bringing back dueling? This is the type of stuff where I think if you have 2 consenting adults, this is where I think government overreaches on things. If people want to consent, and it doesn't have to be dueling. I know it's not even extreme. I think if 2 people decide they want to, fight to the death, I think that should be allowed. But bar fights, right? Somebody disrespects you, pours a drink on you, whatever it might be, and you want to step outside. Well, hey, they don't have to do it, but if you both consent to do it, I don't think that there should be allowed to be any legal ramifications as to what happens next, right? If you punch somebody, they get knocked out and fall and hit their head on the concrete and die. They agreed to step out here. It was consensual between 2 human adults. Why are we disallowing that? And I know the arguments for it. I just don't agree with them.
Well, I think certain states still have that to a degree. Isn't Washington and Texas, don't they both have mutual combat laws?
I don't know if they do. I'm sure that they're not what we're
But
thinking.
I think what happens there is yeah, it's mutual combat. You both agree to it. It's legal. No one will get arrested until someone gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's a fight.
Exactly. That's
Things happen, man.
Oh, that's just funny. So I'm looking it up. I don't know if this. So it says Washington State, for example, Seattle Municipal Code allows mutual combat if no serious injury occurs. Define serious. The fight is consensual. It does not disturb the public peace or endanger bystanders. Texas, both people give consent to fight. No serious bodily injury occurs. Again, just, what is the definition of serious bodily injury? Colorado recognizes consent to physical harm in sports or fights not involving deadly force or gross injury. Oregon laws allows for consent as partial defense in assault cases, provided no serious harm or weapons are involved. So they're kind of BS things where, I mean, I don't even understand how you can say you're allowing mutual combat but no injury or serious injury. Again, what's serious to you might not be serious to me. Is a broken arm a serious injury?
Yeah, did you accidentally lose an eye, lose some teeth?
Right.
Or are we talking about pillow fights?
Right. This is I don't know.
No reason that us as a society can morally or ethically tell police officers you have to tank bricks being thrown at you. That is outrageous. Nobody should have to tank a brick. Nobody should have this happen. Blocking someone's way is also self-defense because you stop me from going where we're trapped there. Where am I supposed to do? Yeah, no, I get it. But like, I don't want to see people get hurt, right? I mean, I can make a joke or say some bullshit.
You know how people don't get hurt? Don't block or impede or throw bricks at people. Problem solved.
Right? Like, I don't actually want to see this happen. But the reason why it happens is because nothing else happens. Like, the escalation is the problem. It would have never gotten to this point if these people had gotten arrested right as soon as they started popping off.
Yep.
The problem is that they haven't gotten arrested. They've been able to just kind of run wild and with no consequences do this stuff. I'm surprised no one's going to try yet. Yeah, exactly, right? And so
this is like what I know that there's got to be something out there, but what would it be when you have this two-tiered justice system? So you very clearly have people breaking the law is not being enforced. And again, I know from a practical standpoint nothing's ever going to happen, but this is more of a thought exercise. Is what would that be for me as somebody to be able to sue, on my behalf or the behalf of others, type of thing, where again, it's discrimination, right? It's discriminatory in the sense that these folks are allowed to get away with it, me and other folks are not. That's illegal under the law, right? To be able to discriminate against groups or individuals based on that, something along those lines. And that's something that I'm constantly thinking about, is like, what legal authority or law would be able to be used to sue, because you're very clearly video evidence, audio evidence, verbal evidence, whatever, that the law is not being enforced equally.
So that's really the issue. No one wants anyone to get hurt, but if you're right-minded, you got to take people in their lives more seriously if they find themselves in front of a moving vehicle. Yeah, exactly. This is the new normal unless they get arrested. Exactly. Yeah, and I live in LA, and the people organizing these riots with buses are giving instructions to people how to get weapons, and Facebook, other similar websites. It's extremely funded. Well, the problem is, like, so if it's so funded, why can't the FBI figure out who's doing it? Why can't they, if there are instructions of getting weapons to go to like a protest on Facebook, why can't they find out who's doing that on Facebook and arrest them? It's the FBI because they're the ones funding it. I mean, that's the best example. Like, okay, like at least that's a conspiracy theory that at least makes sense because nothing else even makes any sense.
They cannot get on that overpass.
You think Democrats should be held accountable for pushing it there? Absolutely not. Democrats are not wholesale accountable for this. Each individual person out there with a baseball bat, a brick, or a rock is accountable for their own actions. It's not Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren's fault that some retard decided to go out there and stand in the middle of the street. It's that retard's fault, and you've got to look at him. Now, unless they're explicitly organizing and telling people to do this, then yeah, of course you've got a conversation there. But let's look at the individual people and who's actually doing this.
So at least what looks to be an overpass.
That's what I think.
To me, from our vantage
look at
point.
this. This is crazy.
So this is obviously causing traffic in the area to come to a standstill. These roads are completely blocked.
So Trump's accountable for January 6th? Yeah, obviously.
I don't know how that argument.
Obviously, yeah. Like, I mean, why would you even bring that up? Yeah, duh, of course. Like, you see, this is the problem that people like you have. You think this is a team. You think that, like, this is some kind of, like, a team thing. No, it's not a team thing, bro. Like, it's a gotcha. Like, what are you even bringing up? Bobby, go back and ban that guy. Like, what is this? You're going to bring that up again? Yeah, this is insane. Even, like, I thought he was, right? Like, because, I mean, I think he could have done a better job keeping people under control, etc. But it didn't happen. That's fine. But overall, yeah, absolutely. People are responsible. Yes. It's a rule of law. They always bring up January 6th. Do you know why? It's because they don't have any other examples.
Protesters have been gathering now for 2 hours, and it's hard for us to get our bearings.
Of course they bring it up.
Because we've been watching the images from the ground all this time, and now we see this shot from the sky, and it's tough for me to distinguish if this is, I don't believe what we're looking at this second is the exact same scene that we've been watching for the past couple hours.
I don't believe so.
What do you think happened on January 6th? It was awful. January 6th was really bad. I mean, I've said this 50 fucking times. The thing is that a lot of people try to bring this up. Like, I don't give a fuck about January 6th. That shit happened years ago. The people that did it went to jail like they should have. And they were in jail for fucking years. Like, if they had been tried for those crimes, the majority of them would have probably gotten out earlier than if they were sitting in there in the first place. They were pardoned? Yeah, but I know what is the criminal amount of time that you have for, like, getting in trouble for that? It's like probably 3 to 5 years, and they were there for 3 to 5 years. That's pretty fucking fair, guys. I'm sorry to say.
Hey, todo va a estar bien, papa. Hey.
Jesus.
I'm not doing anything. Hey, what the fuck are you talking to, dog? Hey, look at that. Hey, he's choking him. Hey, look, hey.
This is nuts.
I'm not doing shit. Hey, I'm recording. Hey, it's all being recorded, pa. It's all being recorded. Dale. I'm not doing anything. I'm right here on the curb. What you gonna do? Nigga ain't put the fucking bags down. Niggas, you ain't gonna do shit. Hey, déjalo. Hey, just let it be. Déjalo, papa.
Yeah, people are just losing their fucking minds nowadays. It's absolutely insane. And I'll see if I can find any more of these. This is the same one from today. This is Brick Boy. This is crazy. Like, this insane that this is even happening. And like, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? Rest the record recording. Yeah, exactly. These dudes don't give a fuck about cameras? Absolutely not. And so resisting arrest warrants force? Yeah, of course it does. They probably allow these protests to happen since they know it makes the Democrats look bad and hope the people living there will switch sides during the midterms. I mean, like, maybe, like, that's an optimistic outlook on it, right? I mean, in my opinion, I just think these people are fucking morons. But, like, I mean, you could be right. But let's see if there's any more of this in general. But, yeah, it's just crazy how much this is going on, right? ICE will not stop and promises arrests for federal agents. Promises arrests. Like, Jesus Christ. How many promises do we fucking need? Yeah, like, I'm so sick of these promises, like, oh, it's gonna happen. Like, this has been going on now for months, man. Yeah. All promises, no action. Yeah. What is this? Like, what are you doing? You're just destroying random shit.
How do you take 20,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing?
This is nuts. Yep. Look, they're helping. Why do this? They do it because they think they can get away with it. That's the reason why. They all think that they can get away with it, and so they do it. I'm going to look at a couple more, then we're going to look at some other stuff, okay?